We are live.
Oh, we're live. We're just talking about my home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very nice. We just yeah, it's just the autumn is beginning here, the fall, whichever you call it. So it's just beginning to get dark, a little bit dusky at this time of night, but
Mm-hmm.
it's still yeah, I can still see the trees behind me. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Alexandra, I'll introduce you in a moment. But first of all, how are you and where are you?
I'm good. Yeah, as I was telling you before, I was spending time with some kids before, with two kids. I'm babysitting my friends' kids, and I was with them for a few hours. And yeah, we were out, we were in the park, and yeah, when you're with kids, I mean, I don't really have much experience with that, but you're constantly on, like you have to really
Mm.
take care of like what's happening around. So I'm really glad to have like a break now. It's really lovely to be with them, and I'm also very happy when the father comes to pick them up.
The great
Yeah.
thing about not having your own kids is you can hand them back to the parents, right? And you
Like
get
I
the
can
joy of them, but not the
be
not the
fully
work.
with them, but I know that at some point I
Yeah.
have to hand them over. That's really good.
Yeah, that sounds good. That's a nice way to
hmm
spend an afternoon.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah. And you're in Berlin, right? I'm
Yeah,
right
so
in
I,
saying
I
that,
live
yeah.
I live in
Yeah.
Berlin, and yeah, it's dark now because I think you are in the UK, right?
Yes, I'm in the
Yeah,
UK.
so
Yeah.
we are 1 hour difference, and I can see you still have bright outside, and here it's getting dark, and it's the same as you were saying before. Autumn is coming; it's already more chilly, and yeah, it's this transition, this time between seasons where you're kind of deciding if you're ready, And
Hmm.
I don't think I'm ready. I think my mind is not ready. Summer was way too short. I think my body is kind of getting ready, but it's just like really kind of finding my feet in this transition as it always happens, and I feel like I don't want to miss it also. Like I love autumn, and I don't want to miss this season. It's not here yet, but with all the leaves and it's like a huge spectacle in nature, and I'm looking forward for when that happens to go in the forest. I actually have a forest nearby, which is very fortunate since like living in a city, you don't really get that. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that moment when I get to see the actual transition with like the leaves and everything. So yeah.
Yeah, same. Autumn is my absolute favorite season. I love
hmm
it. And for me, I always want to dive into it more quickly. So I'm like,
Yeah.
right, summer's over, let's go. And it's
Yeah.
just, you're so right, that kind of waiting for that, like pausing and slowing down and being present to the transition is so
Yeah.
important, I think, isn't it? Otherwise
Yeah.
we miss what's right in front of us. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
so welcome. Well, welcome, Alexandra, and welcome to everyone who's joining us for Stories of Creative Courage, which is my series of conversations with creatives of all kinds, talking about what creativity means to them and to what lights us up and sparks us, what really allows us to become fully alive in our creative expression, and also perhaps what gets in the way. So
Mm-mm.
I imagine we'll have quite a bit to talk about, Alexandra, this evening,
Yes.
or this morning, or wherever you are
Mhm.
in the world. Welcome, and we're having more people join us now. So I want to introduce Alexandra first of all, and then we'll kind of begin with talking about the questions that we want
Yeah.
to talk about. So Alexandra Lais. I had to check the pronunciation. I'm so glad I did. Alexandra
You
Lais.
got it super right.
Fantastic. So, Alexandra is a somatic coach, excuse me, and a yoga teacher. And she has an endless curiosity about the human experience. And that phrase, I love that. It's so
Yeah.
juicy. I think there's lots to talk about there, that curiosity piece and how that plays into
Mm.
creativity. But essentially, you're a coach who works with people, guides them from like overwhelm
Mhm.
into discovering creativity and confidence and confidence in their decision making,
Mhm.
essentially, through nervous system work and through emotional integration.
That's
Does
right.
that
Yeah.
capture it? Have
Yeah,
I got
that
it?
that that
Yeah.
captures it. That captures it. Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. So I'm really keen to hear more about you, your work, um, how you express yourself creatively. Let's join there. Let's start there
Mhm.
and take it from there.
Yeah, that's a good question. And yeah, this theme of creativity is very current for me in this season of my life. Because it's something that I'm experiencing on a whole new level, and Substack is also a part of that. It's I think I feel like I was disconnected from my creativity for quite a long time, and I know it was there. I think creativity is not something that you decide to kind of. I mean, you decide to engage with it, but I think we are inherently creative creative beings. You can also look at kids that are constantly wanting to create and to engage with things, and it's the same for us. But then, as we grow and as we mature, life gets in the way, and then yeah, we kind of get disconnected. I think, to me, creativity, this is how I can describe it, is a connection to myself. And
Mm.
that can take different it can be expressed in different ways, but it starts there. So if I'm disconnected from myself, I'm not able to feel, yeah, like myself, and that nothing flows. So
Mm.
creativity, or it's this feeling of being connected to myself, or to something deeper than what my mind's agenda, or like what the rational mind says in the moment. And yeah, so in the last few months, I've been able to connect with that a lot more through the writing. I've always loved writing, so I always used to hold a journal, like since I was 12 years old. So this was something that I was drawn to very naturally from a very young age, maybe just to process things or to kind of make sense of my experience. And then I abandoned that for a while, and then I came back to it. But I always held a journal at some point, at points in my life, on and off. And then, Substack came my way, and I was like, oh, of course I need to start this. Of course I need to start writing, because I had a lot to say, and I didn't really have an avenue. I didn't know how to channel what was happening within me, and then it came at the right time. So,
Mm.
um, and yeah, and then, so as I was saying, with creativity, it's something that depends very much on whether I'm connected with myself. So, if I am in a space where there's something I want to create. So at the moment, I'm holding space for people. I'm working one to one with people. I'm also creating a group experiences, and that's a creative process, because of course I have the methods, I have the techniques that I want to teach people, and so on. That's all fine. I have my toolkit, and that's fine. But it's a lot more than that. It's like the experience that I want to create, and how to
Mm.
bring all of those things together. And I'm noticing that the more I sit down to force myself to come up with, like, with the best schedule, like with the best structure, the best, program, and the less accessible it becomes. So what I do a lot is, I take myself out of that. It's almost like when you have a problem that you really want to fix and find a solution for.
Mm.
And as much as you try, you at some point you really need to get yourself out of it and distance yourself from it. And then really the answers and the solutions, the creative solutions, will pour in. So that's why I see creativity as kind of filtering itself in all of areas of life.
Mm.
When you're dealing with a challenging situation, that's also your opportunity to access your creativity, and to
Mm.
access. I think I'm going on a tangent now, because I always do this, but I
Great.
really, I really see it. I really see it. Coming into all of these different aspects of life, where we can get really stuck on, like, doing things a specific way, and we don't open our minds to different perspectives. So yeah, I like to take myself out of the whatever thing I'm working on. And recently, walks have been wonderful for me. I think it's quite cliche. Everyone always says, yeah, go for a walk and you'll get your creativity back, and you'll get all the answers. And it's true. It really is true. I think it's the act of walking, and also being. It's actually not just in nature. It can be even in my neighborhood. Sometimes going for an evening walk, and yeah, it's like I always have my phone with me with the notes, and I just
Mm.
write things down. And so I feel like when that happens, for example, when I'm in that kind of space where I just do something ordinary, go for a walk, and then I have ideas coming in, or even insights, or I don't think about anything, and all of a sudden there is this moment where something drops into my
Mm.
brain, almost like all of the things I've been exploring, or even things I've been going through in my life. The puzzle pieces come together, and then this truth, or the perspective, comes through, and it feels like it has been generated from this very amazing space, which is like, I
Mm.
can't say that I generated that necessarily, which is like this magical space that it comes from.
Mm.
So I think that's how I can relate with creativity, is this ability to, or this, not even an ability, but hmm, it's kind of an energy that I can tap into in certain moments. And when I feel like, oh, like that's just bigger than me. It's not, I
Mm,
could never create this with my mind necessarily, but it's just something that it's almost like it feels like I channeled it a little bit. That I don't
mm,
want to sound too woo, but you know what I mean.
I do. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I don't think I'm creative in a traditional sense, if that makes any sense, because I don't think it does. Like, you know, I think by now we understand that creativity or being an artist doesn't mean just painting or drawing or singing or um so for me it's coming, like being able to connect with things from different perspective and put things together. That makes me feel
Mm,
really creative. I love
mm,
conversations, for example, so I love getting lost in a conversation with someone and really going down the rabbit hole and just seeing it from different perspective and getting into another thing. And that for me is creativity. That's how
mm,
I feel it. It's like, oh, like we're just like understanding this whole thing in a whole new way that we couldn't see until now.
mm.
Yeah, so I don't know if I answered the question.
You did. There's so much there to unpack. You've answered it more than, yeah, more than enough. It's there's lots to unpack there. So I would love to like maybe touch on some of those pieces
Hmm.
through this conversation. Maybe I'll say kind of what I hear and what's interesting, and then we can just see where we want to go from that. I love this idea of connection to self first and foremost, like that really deep listening, that kind of sense of coming back to the self before we express ourselves. You know, that to me is very powerful, I think. Um, and, you know, in previous conversations, I've talked a lot, or we, you know, I've talked a lot with previous guests about this loop that happens when we create. So we begin from within and then we express from without. And then there's a kind of loop or feedback loop almost that happens, you know, when we begin to express on the outside what's on the inside, you know. So that I think is really beautiful. um, I also hear like the concept of co-creation, really. So, you know, you're creating with something that's bigger than you, you know,
Hmm.
and a conversation for me is that like one of the reasons I love doing this, even though before we kind of connected and went live, we were saying how, you know, this is quite nerve-wracking in a way, like being visible, you know, going live, having a conversation that is overseen and witnessed by other people. But actually it's a joy and a delight to craft a kind of narrative between us and to kind of tune into what is live, what is enlivening between us, you know, to kind of create something. And a conversation, I think, is a creation. So I agree with you completely with that. Um, yeah, and I also hear like the sort of, how can I say this, like the process that happens with a creation, in that we can't go from A to Z or A to Z like in one go. We tune in, we begin to reflect and maybe even kind of put some words on the page if it's in writing. But then, you know, we keep coming back to it and circling back. And there's a kind of intuitive nudge to begin the process. But then over time, you know, we go for a walk or we walk away or we do something else and we leave things for a time. And in that process, something kind of deepens, I think, and kind of reinforces that connection with self. Um, so I'm curious if any of that lands for you. And then if so,
Hmm.
like yeah, how you'd
Yeah.
respond to that.
Mm. Yeah, I've experienced it so many times. This the co-creation part is, no, sorry, the loop. I want to come back to that because I found it, I never had a word for it. It's the first time I hear it described that way, and it's so beautiful. And I think it's very true, um, to see how some, because yeah, I think it's also part of the creative process to see yourself reflected in the receiver, or
Mm,
like in the whatever it is that you've created, or the idea that you suggested, or the, also when I work one to one with people, that's also a creative process, because we also start we also start from connecting with what's present, connecting with the body, connecting with the space we're in, and then it's like it's a back and forth of like suggestions and ideas that can be picked on and can be explored. They can be left, and they can be, we can return to as well, and it always
mm,
happens in that way.
mm,
And now I'm like, as I'm saying that, I also come to the idea of trust somehow, because in the creative process there is a certain letting go that has to happen,
Mm.
so that the real, like the actual truth of what it is that we are exploring can emerge. Because then if we get in the way with like what the mind has in mind, like with the mind's agenda, because the mind always has like an agenda. Oh, I come into this session, or I come here to explore this thing, and this is what I want to get out of it, and that's my goal, and that's my and yeah, and that can be limiting, I feel, for actually getting out of the experience something you couldn't even imagine. And that's why I
Mm.
love, when I work with people, I love the magic that happens, because it really, there is no way of knowing where it goes. We begin typically in again the same way, but then it can go in so many different directions, and it's just really pure magic. And that's why I feel like there is this big connection also between the capacity to access that kind of creativity and trust, and this connection to self, connection to body,
Mm.
because I work with the body. I do body work. So pretty much everything we do is what is the mind body connection. It's not just, it's mostly, when I say body, I also mean the subconscious. So we don't really
Mm.
work with the rational mind so much. We
Mm.
work with the parts of us that are not accessible unless we create a context to access that. So we create the
Mm.
context
Mhm.
to connect to the body, and then it's almost, it's like learning a new language. You are coming into connection with something that has a different language, the language of sensation, the language of imagery, the language of impulse, and so on. So it's not the language of words or the language of thought. It's different. So that's also like, again, it's like creating and um letting something emerge that is kind of new as well, and very fresh and very raw.
Mm.
So yeah, yeah, it's really beautiful. I think, yeah, I'm really grateful that I do this type of work, and I'm really grateful that I have this kind of connection with my body, and that I can also, I'm very fortunate to be able to also guide people into that, because I
Mm.
do believe that everyone nowadays could use more of this type of connection in a world that is just really intense on so many levels. This is something no one can take away from you. If you
Mhm.
really
I agree.
cultivate this
Yeah.
kind of connection, it's just that you really access something that is just yours.
Yeah.
And yeah, can be very special.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very precious, that kind of unique relationship with self that's different for everybody.
Hmm.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. I'm so glad you mentioned trust, because I was thinking as you were talking how, that plays, well, for me anyway, at least, I don't know, it sounds like for you as well, that plays such a big part of like the letting go, as you say, the surrendering, stepping into the unknown, which can feel really scary. And, for me, I've worked really hard to like cultivate that sense of faith in everything that I create.
Hmm.
And I'm someone who definitely was like a thinky person, wanted to organize everything, have everything tied down and neat and under control. And, you can only go so far that way, actually. And
Hmm.
for sure, we need systems and processes and containers and all of those things. But actually, I realize in the definition of the way you've just described creativity, that I didn't start sort of from the inside out. And so it's
Hmm.
really kind of cultivating the faith and the courage to be able to tune in, and then to allow myself to express in that raw, unfamiliar way that you've spoken about as well.
Yeah.
That for me has been like the emergent edge of my own creativity. And certainly, like you, I hold space for people to emerge and to cultivate confidence and courage. And we work with that a lot. Have you got the courage to like really let everything drop, like surrender, and then just to really be in that space where everything is exposed to some degree? Or
Hmm.
that's the fear anyway. We fear this because our mind takes over. And
Yeah.
then when we do step up, there is that, for me anyway, that experience of truth that you mentioned. We feel it. It feels right. It feels resonant in our bodies and
Hmm.
in our minds, a creative mind, So I love that you mentioned that.
Hmm.
Beautiful. Um, and so kind of taking this theme of courage then, and I kind of hear, that it seems like there's been a shift for you, Alexandra, sort of recently into like maybe embracing more courage, and you're talking about writing and
Yeah.
using Substack as a vehicle for your expression. I'd love to know from you, like, how you've stepped up and kind of
Mhm.
what gets in the way for you. Like when you're feeling this
Yeah.
creativity, what is it that gets in the way for you?
Mm. Yeah, it's there has definitely been a shift in the last few months, and it's getting even it's becoming even more palpable, and I feel like I'm just getting started in some way. I feel like the channel has been open, um, and it's very exciting, and it's also a little bit scary because I'm like, okay, I have all of this in me that I want to share, and I think for a long time, I didn't feel completely safe and completely, um, yeah, comfortable in sharing parts of me or aspects of me that were a bit more tender, a bit more vulnerable. That's why when you're talking, I really love the title of this conversation of the series, the creative courage, because it is really an act of courage to show up in a specific way and to share things that come from you and not the the fully packaged outcome of something. Yeah, for a long time I was just going through my I was in different stages of life where I was unpacking a lot. So there was a lot of unpacking to do from past experiences, some kind of inner conflict between where I was, where I wanted to be, not fully knowing how to move towards what I wanted. A big piece in this has been understanding my nervous system, really, like understanding that some of the patterns and tendencies I've acquired over time were not a flaw of character and were not something that couldn't change. There
Mm,
was a certain stuckness that I was in for quite a long time, and I really thought that it was just something that was just there, and it was just going to be like that. I couldn't really, and because I didn't have the knowledge, having the knowledge of my biology and the fact that things that happen and patterns that you develop are not just something that belong to your conscious mind, but they really live in your body. So really
yeah.
discovering this body piece, biology, nervous system work has helped me shift. That has been actually the missing piece, because I was doing quite a lot of awareness work, so belief work, and I was very aware of everything. This is, I was working on myself quite a bit, and then this key, the missing piece came along, which was this nervous system piece, and I could really benefit from all of the previous work I had done on
Mm,
understanding things, and everything kind of came together, and I was like, I was able to tap into a kind of belonging and safety within myself that I realized at the time I couldn't really find somewhere else. So it was undeniable, and it's still work in progress. This is still part of the work that I do on a personal level. This feeling that this work that I belong to myself, and I am safe to show up big, because I kept myself small for a long time, and I just
mm,
and I feel like I've always had, and I know I always had this huge desire to bring things to life, to move towards what felt interesting to me, and that was writing. That's also like working with people in the way that I work now. I recently also launched a somatic program, which a year ago felt completely like impossible. Like it felt, I had the vision for it, but I just didn't really feel like I could do it. And so I think it's thanks to this work that I've been doing on myself with this nervous system. And yeah, what gets in the way is yeah, the same things, is the fear, the doubt. So whenever I find myself in these loops of comparison, or doubting what I have to say, doubting my message, yeah, this the fear of judgment, or yeah, not being accepted maybe, or like people not fully getting me, being misunderstood. These are kind of the themes
mm,
that are like
mm,
running in the background for me,
mm,
when they come up, I know now not to get into them and to
mm,
analyze them. I just okay, I think I just need to ground into my
yeah,
body and remind myself of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and
yeah.
then it clears up.
Mhm.
um yeah, that's kind of what gets in the way, and that's why it's a constant work. And I feel like the more I'm called to do beautiful work in the world, the more those things will come up, and
Absolutely.
I'll have to work through
Hmm.
them
Hmm.
if I really want to move towards the life that I want and to do this kind of work. Then I really, yeah, it's such a practice because I understand there's no other way. So it keeps me kind of on track. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I do. I do. I think I've talked about it before as fear being a kind of compass, to move us towards where we need to go. And if we don't feel the fear, then we're not kind of stepping close enough towards what we want to create or
Mm.
the vision that we have, or, because it just feels too safe. So there's this kind of beautiful dance, I think, and you've explained it really well. This dance between safety and risk. So this sense of belonging that you can create for yourself, I think, is just such a beautiful, like, sanctuary almost, and yet if you're in that place too much, or for all of us, if we're in that place too much, then we're not taking the risk. We're
Mm.
not actually maybe fully expressing ourselves in the way that we could be. Um, so, what I hear in what you say is it sounds as though there's a very gentle approach to fear and to harnessing courage. So I think sometimes we try to tough it out and say, right, well, I'm terrified, but I'm just going to do it anyway. And there's a disconnection almost, from the self. Which is like, I'm going to put this message out there or publish this piece or whatever the creative form is. What I hear in you is this kind of tuning of your nervous system
Mm.
to allow a kind of calibration so
Mm.
that it makes it safer for you to then express, or safe enough, let's say, for you to express.
Mm-hmm.
Does that
Yeah.
kind of sum it up?
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's a back and
Mm,
forth.
yeah.
It's knowing fully that I'm stepping towards something that feels hard. It's kind of
Mm,
at the edge, doesn't feel extremely dysregulating, but it feels challenging enough. And I know I'm stepping through that, and then it's also coming back to myself after that, and kind of I'm making space for whatever arises,
mm,
whether that's doubt or fear, or even sometimes it's just I need to feel some emotions, and it's just I don't need to understand why they're there. I need to sit with myself and let its own. I feel like my system is asking for integration. Like
yeah.
we've done something hard, but let's not move so quickly towards the next thing. Or if it felt really hard, and let's acknowledge that. Let's acknowledge
Mm,
that, oh, that was really something new for me. It was hard. I'm going to give myself time, or maybe share it with a friend and be like, hey, I did this thing and it was hard and I'm proud of myself, but I just feel like, I just feel all of these things, and that shows my system that, oh, we did something hard but nothing happened, and we're still alive, and it's all fine. So it's a constant back and forth for me at this stage of my life, at least. It
mm,
always, it probably will change, but it's, yeah, very small steps forward,
mm,
honoring my capacity, what I can actually handle, and really respecting that, and then letting myself integrate. And of course, like, I have various tools for that, and I love watching movies, for example. Like, I it's my way, after I do some intense focus work, or I put something out there, and I yeah, work with people, or I let myself be seen, then I really need something, like, yeah, something completely different, walks in nature and all of that. But I just love to watch movies and get lost in another story, in another crypt,
mm,
in another.
mhm,
So it is, yeah, it is quite gentle, and it wasn't like that in the past. It was different. It was, I think, again, having this understanding of how my body likes things to be, how my nervous system likes
mm,
things to be,
mhm.
allows me to do things this way. So
Yeah,
it's
I love
really
that.
been, yeah, just
Mm,
knowing, oh, like, that's how we like it. We like it steady, and
mhm,
actually, all of the things, they really compound, and you can feel yourself achieving, or being in a place where you couldn't even expect yourself to be a year ago. But then if you look at your path, you didn't go through, like, lots of unnecessary stress. You didn't burn out. You didn't, like, it was steady, and
mm,
it feels so good. And even there are times when maybe you do need to push a little bit more, or like do something, and maybe you don't take care of yourself so much, but then can you remind yourself to also come back to, yeah, to give yourself
Mm,
that integration part, which
mm,
sometimes we forget.
mm.
So it is gentle. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I'd love to, if you can, to give us like a specific example of something like a tool or a
Mm-hmm.
practice, an exercise that you do for yourself, or maybe you do with your clients, like
Mm-hmm.
to kind of to allow for that regulation of the nervous system before, you know, making a
Mm.
decision or stepping up to do something. Like, is there something
Yeah.
you could share with us, like
Yeah.
concrete? Yeah.
So it's something that I do myself quite a bit. So as I said, I launched this program recently, and I was very fearful because I mean, I really believe in it. I believe in it fully, but I had a lot of doubts. I was like, is this the right thing? Is it covering everything I want to share? And so on. So I really needed to sit down before I even launched it, before I even put it out there. I didn't want to do that with this energy. I didn't want to
Mm,
do it with this energy of like agitation and fear, and like I just wanted to to sit down and to really unpack a little bit what's happening. And so I do journaling quite a bit because it helps me a lot. So sitting down and just taking a moment to connect with my body and to feel what's present inside my body, that's very simple, and it's something I do daily. And asking myself, like, what's really going on here? Because I know
mhm,
it's not about the program, I know it's not about the thing itself, like what's really happening. And I'm able to very, like, this is a journey, so you might not be able to tap into that straight away. It might take some time, maybe even just the moment you give yourself to sit with what's present can be already enough. But then if you want to go deeper, you can really investigate, okay, what's really happening, what's really underneath. And then just see what comes. And then I recognize, yeah, that's it's the fear that maybe, you know, it won't work out and I won't be able to do this thing that I love for a living, and I won't be that was actually the fear underneath. It wasn't just that
mm,
the thing wasn't good, or it was a deeper fear of security, and a deeper fear of being able to exist in the world doing something that I love and being able to live from that. And so it was like a something very deep that I know where it comes from and so on. So I was like, oh, okay, so that's what it is. Okay. And then I talked myself through this whole thing of telling myself that whatever happens, we will be okay. Like if
mhm,
this doesn't work, we'll do something else. We were always okay. And then what matters is that we have ourselves, we have each other's backs. I speak to myself sometimes in like in the third person, like because it's many parts of me. So I'm like, okay, I have your back. So what matters in this process of when we're doing this difficult thing is that we have ourselves, regardless of the outcome. So it's this process of again tending to this part of me that feels vulnerable in the moment, and no, like letting her be seen, seeing her, and reassuring her that we'll be fine, whatever happens. And that's something that I do every time I feel like very strong emotions or fear, mostly fear, doubt. I really like to take that moment, and then it kind of clears it, and I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm good to go with this. It might still feel a bit tender, but it clears it up, and then I can just do the thing, knowing that okay, this thing might not work, or this thing, you know, like I made a decision that I will be okay if it doesn't work out, but I'm doing
mm,
it anyway because that's what I want to do, and I believe in this,
mm,
and I'm doing my part. So
mhm,
I don't have all of the stories in the mind anymore. I'm like, okay, I
mm.
understand. So that's, yeah, it's personal, but it's, yeah, it can be with like it really works with writing. So if it's,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
like with
Yeah.
writing it down, like what's happening, and just writing it down, and like going a little, maybe a layer under and a layer under. And then I use a lot of self touch. So when it comes to an actual tool, works the best for me. Self touch,
Mm,
pressuring my body, and just it calms me down straight away, and it creates that extra connection with myself, like on a very tangible level. Yeah.
mm. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I love all that. And I'm hearing that kind of gentle approach, which is to just accept what's there, not try to change it, not
Mm.
try to shift it, just create space for the feelings or the emotions or the fear or whatever it is, and then to allow it space and to also allow space for those parts of you that show up that want to or that feel too fearful to do the
Yeah.
expression, to kind of be, you know, fully creative. Yeah, that's the integration part that I think you mentioned before, you know, that I see in what you're saying, like integrating the various parts of yourself so that you're arriving at this moment of creative expression with all of yourself,
Mm.
you know, the parts that maybe are scared, you know, and the part that really wants to, you know, launch the program or, you know,
Yeah.
whatever it is, write the thing. And, you know, really not letting one take precedence over the other,
Mm.
you know, that it's all there. And actually that the integration processes, whether that's self-touch or journaling, you know, it sounds like you have like a dialogue with yourself in some
Yeah.
ways, which is a tool that I also use as well. And I use that with people that I work with
Hmm.
also. Like, yeah, let's like have a conversation between these
Yeah.
different parts of us. You know, we're complex beings. And I
Yes.
think creativity allows that. You said a while ago in the conversation, you know, it's about connecting the dots, almost connecting these different parts. And so I hear that in what you've just described, that kind of bringing all of you, you know,
Mm.
connecting all the parts of yourself in order
Yeah.
to create. Yeah.
Because also when it comes to, let's say, fear or anxiety, it can come up. It's helpful to think of that as a part of you, not the entirety of you. It can really help make a separation from
Mm,
what you're experiencing, and you as the adult, responsible self who knows what they want and they want to do that thing, and it's yeah, it's almost like a gentle reparenting that happens in that process. Like, okay, that's just a
mm,
part of me
mm,
that is is requiring, it has a certain need or whatever it is, but it's not all of me. It's not, it's just a
mhm,
part of me. And it again has been something that has helped a lot, because we can really identify ourselves with our feelings and with our emotions. When we feel fear, we're like, okay, that's just everything. I feel fear, and that's the only thing I can feel, also because we're wired to notice the
mhm,
intensity, the what's uncomfortable. But then we don't think about like all of the other things that are going really well for us. So it's an exercise of reminding ourselves that that's just like one thing that's present, but it's not everything, I think.
exactly.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think it really cuts down our choice, right? When we're in fear, we can't see the possibilities of everything else that we could be or everything else we could do, that we're really constrained by the fear and it keeps us small, as you said. There's a phrase that you used earlier in
Mm-hmm.
the conversation. Um, you spoke about connecting to yourself and also connecting to something beyond yourself. And so I'd love to like touch on what that looks like for you, how that feels for you, how you define that, you know, what part that plays in your
Mm-hmm.
creativity a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you're
Yeah.
willing. Mm,
Yeah, sure. Let me see. Hmm. So connection to self almost always brings me to this understanding, this felt understanding of the bigger picture in some way,
mhm,
because I can feel I can feel connected to something bigger when I access the connection to myself somehow.
mhm,
um I guess you can call it in different ways, and I just know that when I'm connecting with myself, there is I have access to some kind of information that comes from something that looks after me. That's just how it feels
mhm,
sometimes.
mhm,
Yeah, so that's it's like it's an energy that I am able to connect with, that it is underlying everything else that I'm experiencing. It has this quality of compassion and acceptance, and it's like, yeah, we everything will be okay. There is no right or wrong. It's all gonna work out in a way.
mhm,
And um yeah, so that's kind of how I can experience it. It's I feel held by something
mhm,
that is not I really, yeah, I trust, and I've always had that in a way. I mean, I just know. I mean, it's for me it's even impossible to not feel that way. There is just so much magic everywhere. Like everything that has been created, you can go out in nature, but just everywhere, the way things get created in the world,
mhm,
like how we bring you know people into life. We give birth and so on. So we always, and that's just magic to me. So there is definitely, I mean, I know, I feel that there's something underlying everything. This bigger energy that holds everything, and I've always
Mm,
felt connected to that. But
mm,
I cannot access that. So maybe that's different for other people, because I also know people who can more immediately connect with that than with themselves, and that
mhm,
helps them connect with themselves. But
mm,
for me, it's
mm,
the other way
mhm.
around, I feel.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's more like connecting, like coming into connection with myself, and then, oh, okay, I remind myself that there is also this bigger thing, like, oh, I'm not alone. But so that's it. That's the root somehow for me.
Mm,
But I
yeah.
know for others it's different also. So
Mm.
it's interesting to explore. I wonder what you think about that, actually.
Yeah, I love that. I think for me, I'm the same. I come to connection with self first in order to then kind of feel the magnificence of what's beyond, the magic, as you put it out there.
Mm.
And that has been quite a process for me. It's taken a lot of trust to really be able to listen and recognize that. I guess what we're talking about, or how I understand it, is almost like touching the divine in myself in order then to access and understand and be with the divine, out there. That's
It's
how
exactly
I
that.
feel. Yeah. So, and I'm so fascinated by this sort of, again, it's another dance between touching the divine self, that's very pure and is kind of almost for a very brief moment stripped of the fear, the judgment, all of that kind of stuff, all the defense mechanisms that stop us being in our absolute pure creativity. When we hit those places, I think that's real magic. And for me, it doesn't happen all the time, but when it happens, I know it, I feel it, and I know it's an experience of something beyond who I am.
Mhm.
So I think there is this like conversation between the divine and the self and the divine kind of out there. They are intimately connected. We can't have one without the other. And I think it doesn't matter what the access point is, it may be that you start out here and then go in, but
Yeah,
actually we can't express and create without being in both and
yeah,
having an experience of both. That's how I see it anyway.
yeah. And now that you're saying that, I come back to this idea of the loop that I really loved, and
Exactly.
I'm gonna
Yes.
keep that idea.
You're welcome.
Um, as the more connected you are with yourself, and you're letting creativity emerge, then I feel like the bigger divine that you're talking about comes to meet you there. There is like things happen on the outside that feel like magic, through people, through situations, through, I don't know, like, just, yeah. And for me, that's kind of the feedback. It's the,
Yeah.
like, I
Yeah.
connected, it's almost like, yeah, like, I think it's almost like evidence. Sometimes we need some evidence. I feel like that, and it's like, oh yeah, that I know that worked. It worked because I felt it, and
Hmm.
I feel like some, like, the bigger thing that holds us all, the universe, responds. Like, yeah, I saw that, and I'm just telling you, and I'm confirming that for you. So that's, yeah, that's the loop again. Yeah.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. That's a perfect place probably to end the conversation
Yeah.
where we began, which is this feedback loop, this kind of like connection with self before we express on the outside. For those
Hmm.
of us who joined the call sort of halfway through, that's what we meant by feedback loop. This
Hmm.
loop of kind of giving and receiving, or like self and other, or however we want to define it, but just having the continual loop so that it's unbroken.
Hmm.
That's what I hear. It's beautiful. Oh, I
Yeah.
could talk to you all evening.
Was,
So good to talk to you, Alexandra. I would love to hear from you before we leave. Where we can find out more about you. Where can we find out about your work? Like, where do we
mm,
go to read your stuff and
yeah.
understand your work?
Hmm. So, yeah, I'm mostly active on Substack out of all of the platforms. And if you go on my page, you can find my publication called Soma Healing. I share all about nervous system education. There's somatics. There's some free practices as well in the free resources tab section in the publication. And then there's also my Instagram link there, and there is also the link to my upcoming program. I don't have a website yet; that's in the making. But most of the, like, the heart of my work is in Substack. All of the articles are free to read,
Hmm.
so you can find it all there. And yeah, that's where I am nowadays.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. And I'll put links in the show notes that I create for all of these conversations. And so I'll link obviously your Substack and then draw attention to your program as well, you know, for people who may be interested in exploring further these techniques and tools and practices that you share with others as well and hold space for other people.
Yeah.
So yeah, that will all go in there.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you. It's been a delight,
It
Alexandra. It
was a
really
pleasure.
has. And so good, you know, and Substack is so good, isn't it, for creating these connections. We connected on Substack, and so here we
Yes.
are, you know, and I love that. It's becoming this space where people can meet. And, you know, I kind of do feel this like energetic resonance with certain people that, you know, it's just like, that's magic. You know, we begin to show up and comment on each other's stuff. And then before we know it, we're having a conversation like this
Yeah.
one. So I love it.
Yeah, me
Wonderful.
too. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you to everyone who's joined us. Really good to have you with us today. And yeah, see you next time on Stories of Creative Courage. Bye,
Have a
everyone.
lovely
Bye
evening.
bye.
Bye.
Bye.